Hey guys, hope you're well. Would you believe it, 12 months of ownership now on my next gen Ranger. Time really flies, so I thought it would be an opportune time to do a bit of a review, owning the vehicle for 12 months, and I can touch on some of the things that I think are great about the car and some of my frustrations as well. So I'll be completely honest and transparent with you all. So as context, this is a 2022 XLT V6 Ranger. I've owned it since September last year. Ran the vehicle relatively stock for a few months, and then I've started to progressively modify it. So now it's quite heavily modified, and I've done numerous videos on that. You can check them out on our channel. I've got about 23,500 kilometers on the dial, and it's done a whole variety of different sort of terrain. So I've used it as a daily. It's taken me on solo trips and camps. We've done a lot of towing with the caravan as well, and a whole variety of things in between. So ultimately using the vehicle for its purpose, which is great. You know, I paid full retail on this vehicle, so there are no endorsements or anything like that. I always wonder, do I start with the good or the bad with these sort of reviews? But let's kick it off with all the positive things, and then I'll touch on my frustrations. One of the big drivers for me with buying this vehicle was towing. Particularly the V6, I knew it would be a powerful engine, have a lot of torque for towing. So that was a big decision factor for me. And from that perspective, it's been amazing. It pulls my van, which is about 2.8 tons when it's loaded. So it pulls that van effortlessly. It's really, really good. Been able to test it in various locations, on the road, off-road, etc. And all up, we've done about 6,000 kilometers of towing. So about a quarter of the vehicle's use has been towing our caravan. Just having that extra torque really comes into play with hills and those sort of things. So really, really great. Power plant in this vehicle, really, really strong. Been happy with it. The 3-litre V6 tows really, really well, but it's just really nice to drive as a daily as well. Smooth power delivery. Fuel economy is pretty good. So I'm probably averaging around 10 litres per 100 kilometres around town. And that's quite impressive considering I'm running 33-inch tyres and I'm running a lot of extra weight on the vehicle because it's quite heavily modified. This is a big step up in terms of technology, and definitely one of the big motivators and why I really was drawn to the car as well is, you know, I love off-roading, but I do like technology as well. You've got this big screen in there. So this comes with a 10-inch screen. Once you move up to some of the higher models, you can get a 12-inch. But I've actually used both, and I had a high car that I used, and I actually found practically not much difference between the two in terms of usable space. It's great for, you know, use of maps. I use Google Maps and Waze quite often day to day, and Gear Maps as well is a good one for off-road because you can add waypoints and things like that. I think generally the interior of the vehicle is just a nice place to be. It's very comfortable. So these are the XLT seats, which are cloth, but very comfortable. Plenty of seat in the rear for the kids. We've got 2 young kids, and we have a dog, and we travel quite a bit. So there's room for the 2 kids on either side and Gracie in the middle. So plenty of room in the back, that's a tick. Probably a bit vain, but certainly on the looks department, in my opinion, this is just an amazing looking vehicle. It really has a lot of road presence. Those big C-clamp headlights at the front, you see it coming down the street. It looks mean, and you know, with the black vehicle as well, you know, been really happy with that decision. Just a word of warning, if you do go down this route with black, definitely look at some sort of protection on there. This has a full PPF wrap, and that keeps that paint looking good, but you know, the downside of a black vehicle certainly is the maintenance. You've got a bit more. Practicality of the tray. So the tray is a good size. I know Ford have done a lot of work in increasing the size of the tray on this vehicle so you can get a pallet in there. You know, I'm obviously coming from a wagon and used to having to pack quite tightly to get things to fit. So having that extra space in the ute is very practical. And look, little things on the vehicle that I really like the steps that are integrated into the tray. Just handy, you know, you've got to get up there and get things in and out of the tray. It really makes it easy, and Ford have really thought about those things. Look, I'll jump into the negatives now. And I guess as context, you know, if you buy a Gen 1 of any vehicle, you know, you're going to do a bit of R&D for Ford on this. So you're going to find out all the weaknesses, and you know, those that buy subsequent models will benefit from that. But saying that, if you're a Gen 1 buyer, you get to enjoy the vehicle first before there's a flood of them on the road. So there's that novelty factor as well. So the fact that I'm doing a 12-month review at this point, you're probably getting the picture that I was one of the first people to own one of these. So I feel very fortunate to be in that position. But I did have a few early glitches. There was a batch of these Rangers that came through originally that had a bit of a tail shaft vibration. This was unfortunately one of those. It was super minor. I just noticed it at certain speeds. There was a slight vibration. Ford were onto that straight away. I was in, they actually put a brand new tail shaft on it. So that was all good. I know that's been rectified for current models. I would say probably the primary frustration, it's actually the technology. It's just little glitches. And I think, look, Ford have obviously gone in leaps and bounds on this vehicle. They've really tried to push the envelope on what's possible. But with that means that, you know, there's some finesse needed and there's some bugs and glitches and things that are kind of frustrating if you're using one of these day to day. Some are really little, but let's jump into it. So I own an iPhone, which means I'm using Apple CarPlay in the vehicle. And it is wireless, so you don't need to sort of wire it in like I had to do on my last vehicle, which is a positive. But I do find in the vehicle, it can be a bit intermittent in terms of connection. And that can be a bit frustrating. You know, we can be about to drive out the house with the van hooked up and we want to put the location of our destination in there and we can't get the Apple CarPlay to connect. You know, you have to turn the car on off and, you know, things like that. So it's a bit hit and miss with the Apple CarPlay. I'm sure it's just one of those things that will get ironed out over time, but that's our experience anyway. I'd love to know if you own one of these vehicles, if you're finding the same thing. But yeah, just that CarPlay connectivity can be a bit intermittent every now and then. One that's been quite annoying as well is a front camera malfunction message that keeps popping up every now and then whilst I'm driving. So these have like a front camera and that sort of works with your radar and some of the safety tech in the vehicle. That also helps to determine how far you are in terms of distance from the car in front, and that works with your cruise control and those sort of things. But I've had this intermittent issue where it comes up with this message saying front camera malfunction, and then you kind of lose the camera functionality for a period of time. Now I found after about 5 minutes, it just comes back. So it stops working for a few minutes, it comes back. It doesn't stop the car from working or anything like that. You can continue to drive, but it'll just come up with an error message and you've got to press OK to kind of clear that. So it's a bit frustrating. I've actually been back to Ford once and they've done a software reset and it seemed to fix the problem for about 4 weeks, but it's come back again. There's actually rear sensors on these vehicles. One thing we've found is if you're driving on really dusty, dirty roads, you can get some messages come up and it can sort of deactivate the radar, which just means that your blind spot monitoring and things when you're towing are not operational for that period of time. So again, just a frustrating one. You do need to sort of stop the car, give them a wipe, and then they'll be okay. In terms of off-roading issues, this has been really good off-road. All the temperatures have been generally, within range, etc. There was one occasion where we had an issue. We were camping in Moore River. It was a slightly sort of dramatic trip and we had a bushfire situation and we had to make the decision to evacuate. We were towing the van up a very, very steep hill. I was in 4 low at the time and I was sort of crawling up a hill and I lost power momentarily. I haven't been able to sort of really put my finger on what happened that day because it hasn't been replicated since. Perhaps it was the extreme weather on the day. It was 46 degrees, so it was an absolute stinker of a day. To basically move forward at the time, I just popped the car into 4 high instead of 4 low, and then I seemed to be good to be able to drive out. So it was something about being in 4 low. It might have been the torque converter was sort of having to work too hard. No issues since, everything seems to be good. My gut feeling is some sort of a software glitch at the time. We'll go to like small day-to-day kind of bugbears. If you own a bi-turbo, this particular thing is not going to be relevant for you. But so auto stop start, that is a function on the V6. It turns the engine off essentially when you're at the traffic lights and when you stop the vehicle. But I don't like how it sort of turns that feature on straight away. So I can sort of start my vehicle at home and I'm about to go, into the city or whatever. The vehicle's cold. I drive around the corner and I stop, and it'll turn the vehicle off. So I don't like the fact that it's doing that when the engine's not warmed up. So I generally turn that feature off, and I do wish Ford had an option to sort of go, no, I can just turn that off in the settings rather than having to press that button every time. But it's just, it's something you've got to do. And the other one is the lane keeping function as well. So it'll automatically default that to on when you're driving the vehicle. And look, you might like that feature, it keeps you in the lanes, but I personally, I'm not a fan of it. You know, you feel that slight steering kind of movement when you're driving, and I prefer to turn it off. I'm also not a fan of the way the vehicle tows with that lane keeping feature on. Feels like I don't quite have control of the van as much as with it off. So every day I drive the vehicle, I turn those two buttons off. So look, nothing major for me. It's all been kind of minor stuff and just getting used to kind of this vehicle and its quirks. So probably the question you're all asking is, you know, does it get the pass? Does it get the tick of approval after 12 months? And I think the answer is yes. Sure, there are some things that are sort of bugbears and things that probably Ford should get onto, but on the whole, I feel like it's a great vehicle. Very happy with the decision. I knew going into this, buying a Gen 1, that, you know, there's that risk that a few things might pop up. You know, I've had nothing major. It's been a reliable daily for me to this point. And look, obviously I'm going to be doing a lot more trips, and if anything does happen, you'll be the first to know about it. I'd also love to hear from you all today as well. So I know there's a lot more next gen Ranger drivers now on the road. Do you like it? Did you make the right decision? Drop it below in the comments. If you're new to the channel and you're yet to subscribe, please hit that button. It certainly will help the channel continue to grow. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.